Oh. Oh, man. Today's a special day, but he's not spending it with me. Should I call him? Oh, what the hell. I'll do it anyway, whether he likes it or not. Hopefully I remember all the words. All lasagna shall be taken. By someone hungry I awaken. Orange feline, be revealed. Garfield, Garfield, Garfield! Garfield, you're here! Happy birthday! Oh, please forgive me, Master. I know we're not scheduled for a lesson, but come on. I don't know your cell number. How else am I supposed to get in touch with you? No, wait, Garfield, don't leave! Don't leave! Come on, Garfield, can't this be an exception? I mean, you're spending time with Odie and John and Jim Davis. Can't you spend a little bit of time with your biggest fan in the world? You can? Yay! I know exactly what we're going to do. The perfect thing. How about we watch this movie, Garfield Gets Real, your first CGI film. It's much better than that crappy one with Bill Murray, and it's going to be so much fun. Come on, let's watch it together. Okay, Garfield, that was the movie. What do you think? Yeah, I know. You think you were the greatest part and, it was all good, but I don't know. I don't think it was as good as I remembered, Garfield. I'll have to disagree with you. Oh, I got an idea. How about we do something together for your birthday, like do a review of Garfield Gets Real? I think that would be really cool. Come on, Garfield, let's do it. The movie opens with the sun coming up and the cartoon world literally waking up. This didn't exactly look like a Garfield movie to me at first. I mean, the art style is kind of different, and oh my god, that bee is ugly. For a moment I thought this was actually a non-Garfield short before the actual movie, kind of like, scratch shorts before some Blue Sky films. But then Garfield actually appears and shows, this actually is the movie. Oh my gosh, this looks really cheap. I mean, Garfield, Odie, and John look okay, modeled in 3D, although they look kind of plastic at the same time. And if you compare how John's moving here to how he moves in Garfield Gets a Life, doing that crazy dance, you can see how in 2D he's much more lively, but in 3D it's kind of a little stiff. I don't know. I guess I should talk about the voice actors. Garfield is now voiced by Frank Welker, replacing Bill Murray. And Welker does an okay job trying to imitate Lorenzo Music's voice, although he is a little bit off-pitch sometimes. Greg Berger reprises his role as Odie, and John's voice actor has also been replaced. It was originally some guy named Tom Hughey, but he's now voiced by Wally Wingert, and, they all do okay jobs. You'll also notice that Garfield now actually speaks to John.
John, it's Monday. Monday is the armpit of the week. It's like a black hole on the calendar that just sucks all the joy out of your entire being.
Lighten up, Garfield. You're the star of a comic strip.
I don't know why Jim Davis made this change. Maybe it's to get around the question, how does John know what Garfield's thinking in the comics? But I don't understand this change. I mean, you would think the 3D animators would actually like animating a character that doesn't have to have his mouth move, but whatever. So then John takes Garfield and Odie to the studio in his car, and we get to see what this comic strip world looks like. And I guess they're trying to be zany or something, but the cheap CGI here doesn't really sell it that well. Yeah, I guess they're trying to do something like Toontown from Roger Rabbit, but that was 2D animated and high budget. This is low budget CGI. It's not as bad as Food Fight, but that's not saying much. John then goes and picks up Arlene and Nermal, and I guess I should mention some more voice actors here. Arlene didn't have a voice actress on Garfield and Friends because she only had a brief cameo in one episode. However, she now has a voice, and her name is Audrey Wazalewski. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. I'll just put it on the screen here. And she does an alright job as Arlene. But then we get to Nermal's voice, and it's very different from Garfield and Friends. His new voice is Jason Marsden. And for those of you furry nerds out there, he's also the voice of Kovu from Lion King 2. And he was also the voice of Max in the Goofy movie. Yeah, and Nermal's voice is just irritating.
Guess what day it is today?
I know what day it is, Nermal.
Oh, come on, guess.
Monday!
And you hate Mondays, M to the undays. You hate them. You hate them, yeah.
I mean, okay, that is Nermal's personality. He's supposed to be an annoyance, but this is, too irritating for me. And it's also, deeper than what was on Garfield and Friends, so I don't know if Nermal's, hit puberty or something. Yeah, and he doesn't brag about being the world's cutest kitten, which is kind of weird. I don't know. So John arrives at the studio, and we now meet a bunch of characters that have never appeared in the Garfield comics before. Say hello to Billy the Bear and Randy the Rabbit. Oh my gosh, that's gross. We also meet Wally the inventor and his bossy wife, Bonita. And Wally demonstrates this little invention that steals one of Bonita's cookies. Keep that in mind, because this becomes plot relevant later. Oh, and Randy Rabbit has a brief scene where he's inflated. I guess I know what I'll find if I search Randy Rabbit on Fur Affinity. The art style here is kind of all over the place. Like, Billy and Randy look like they could easily be Garfield characters, while Wally and Bonita, have a different look, and, it does kind of give the feeling of, a comic strip world where, you have different characters crossing over. But then you have character designs like this lady, Zelda the Lunch Lady, and the director, and the prop boy. They really don't really fit into, Garfield style. The script lady here, Betty, I think her name is, she looks like she could easily be a Garfield character, and whoa, she looks top-heavy. I wonder why she doesn't, fall over or anything. I don't know, it's like they had multiple character designers, and they just all had conflicting ideas what would fit in Garfield's world. We also get some brief cameos from Dagwood and Grimmy. I guess the Dagwood cameos here, kind of as an homage to the 1997 April Fool's prank, where Jim Davis drew Blondie, and Blondie's artists did Garfield. Wouldn't that be a cooler idea for a crossover, Garfield? Have a movie where you cross over with a bunch of other comic strip characters, kind of like Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue, just don't have a stupid anti-drug message. Yeah. Wouldn't that be a cooler idea for a movie? Alright, I've griped enough about the look of this movie. Let's get to the actual plot. So, Garfield confides in Arlene that he's tired of doing his comic and he wants his life to be changed up or something. Garfield talking about how tired he is and everything, it kind of does make me wonder if Jim Davis is aware of all the complaints. Oh, Garfield's stale and unfunny. And I have to wonder if this is like Jim Davis kind of subtly acknowledging them. Although, I could just be reading more into this than there really is. I don't know. So then Garfield goes to work, and we see how comic strips are created. Basically, Garfield and his friends are basically actors, and they pose in front of stages and everything. Wait a minute. This kind of raises some weird questions, Garfield. Like, if all the comic strip characters are just actors, where are their cartoonists? I mean, we see Jim Davis's signature on the comics, so he must exist in this world, or is, Jim Davis just some pen name? Screw it. I'm asking too many questions. It's just a kid's movie. So anyway, we then see all the comics are, beamed into newspapers, and oh my god, are they actually watching people read the comics? This is like some 1984 type shit going on. Garfield, you don't spy on me when I'm reading the comics, do you? Okay, you also, don't spy on people, when they're on the toilet or something. Jeez, you're perverted. Oh yeah, and the people in the quote-unquote real world still look like cartoon characters. I mean, the difference between the comic strip world and the real world would have been, a bit greater looking if they actually had, live actors reading the newspaper. But on the other hand, CGI Garfield and live action don't really go together very well. So maybe it's better, they just have one animated world looking at another animated world. I don't know. So while all the comic strip characters invade the privacy of their readers, they switch between different newspapers, and then they look at a hot dog stand, and Garfield asks to freeze on there. And then Garfield goes into this really weird dream sequence where he imagines he's eating all these hot dogs and everything, and he looks like he's on LSD or something. What the heck was going on, Garfield? Were you on drugs or something? And oddly, for whatever reason, lasagna never comes up in this movie. I mean, I think it would have made more sense if, the newspaper was looking at an Italian restaurant than a hot dog stand. I don't know, that's just me. Meanwhile, Odie has a prop bone he stole from the prop boy, and he's trying to find a place to hide it. Check out this one scene where Odie, hides the bone in his mouth and prop boy doesn't realize it.
Hey, dog, where's my prop bone? I am keeping an eye on you, dog.
Prop boy must be blind or something, I don't know. So Odie keeps trying to find some hiding places, and then he gets the bright idea to hide the bone in this little patch in the wall where the comic strip characters view the real world. Whoops! The bone gets sucked out into the real world. This sets off a bunch of alarms, and the guy that controls the screen, I think his name is Eli, explains that the comic strip world and the real world are pressurized, and if you try to go through the screen, you'll get sucked out. This then gives Garfield the idea to go out into the real world. He thinks that, being in the real world is the change he needs, and then Odie gets sucked out also because he wants that bone. Yep, kind of a stupid day for both of them. This may sound a bit strange, but I actually think the real world looks a little bit nicer than the cartoon world. Although it is still kind of weird that the real world is populated by characters that still look like they're cartoon characters. And cartoony stuff still happens in the real world, like these chihuahuas who chase Odie for his bone. They drag their owner with them, and then she gets stuck in a tree, totally cartoon stuff. Meanwhile, Garfield meets this stray cat named Shecky, and Shecky is voiced by Greg Berger, so I guess it's nice for Berger that,
You know, he gets to do more in this movie than just making barking noises. Shecky recognizes Garfield and Odie from the comic pages, so they get along pretty quickly. Meanwhile, in the comic strip world, all the comic strip characters are worrying over losing their two biggest stars. And John asks a question that's kind of hilarious in hindsight.
How are we going to have a funny comic strip without our star? We need a funny cat.
Yep. Fun fact. This movie came out the year before Garfield minus Garfield started. Shecky introduces Garfield and Odie to this girl cat and this dog that are friends of his. However, they're not really important to the plot, so I'm not going to bother remembering their names. So anyway, Garfield feels hungry, and Shecky decides to teach him how to get food by singing on the fence and having people throw food at them. Now, Garfield's all about, oh, I'm tired of my regular routine, but Garfield likes to sing on the fence in the comics, so I don't really see how this is like a break in your routine, Garfield. Maybe you like, just doing it for real instead of acting or something, I don't know. But anyway, it's here that Garfield starts to realize maybe the real world isn't all that great. They sleep in some abandoned building, and Garfield looks into the newspaper and thinks, maybe I really do miss the comic strip world. So the next morning, Garfield's reading the newspaper, and then Odie gets chased by those frickin' chihuahuas again. They just will not give up on that bone. You gotta wonder, how'd that woman escape from that tree? Was she just there the whole night or something? Or did the dogs pull her through or something? But anyway, Odie loses them when he lures the dogs up into this tree, and then the tree, catapults them into the air, and then they come crashing down, and then they continue to chase Odie, but Garfield, puts them all in a garbage can or something. I don't know. Very cartoony physics for the real world. But anyway, Garfield looks into the newspaper and sees that because he's missing, his comic is going to get canceled. And they're going to have, this contest, to replace Garfield's comic. And Garfield thinks, hey, Odie, if we just go to the newspaper studio and present ourselves, they'll give our comic back. So then they go to the newspaper building, and the newspaper judges are, throwing out all these rejects. And, oh my god, these judges just look ugly. I mean, geez, even by this film's standards for weird character design, they just look hideous. Oh my gosh. That middle judge looks like what President Trump will look like in the next 48 years. He even says sad at one point.
Sad.
Garfield and Odie present themselves, and somehow the judges, don't recognize them at first.
See the resemblance?
Hey, they do kind of look like them.
And then Garfield and Odie try to pitch themselves, and the judges are just like, oh my gosh, that cat is so fat. That's such a bad example for children. It's kind of weird. They sound like the Common Sense Media review for the Garfield movies. Oh my gosh, look at this, sexual content and stuff. They're making your movie sound edgier than it really is, Garfield. So Garfield tries to demonstrate some physical comedy by kicking Odie off the table.
The judges are shocked by this violence, but Garfield assures them that cartoon characters can't get hurt for real. Or at least so he thinks.
Oops, sorry, pal. I forgot you can really get hurt in the real world.
Wait a minute, this getting hurt for real rule didn't apply when those chihuahuas were catapulted earlier in the movie.
Geez, why are you being consistent with, all the physics in the real world, Garfield? This doesn't make any sense. But then some competitors come in. These two muscly cat and dog figures, Harley and Hale, I think their names are. And oh my gosh, this looks pretty unhealthy. Are you sure their owner isn't giving them steroids or something? But anyway, the judges that these characters are going to be more positive role models and everything. But the main judge, holds off on signing the contract and says, we're going to give Garfield 24 hours, to come back or something. What? Garfield and Odie are right there in the studio with you! Jeez! What is wrong with everyone in this world? This doesn't make any sense, Garfield. What's going on? Oh yeah, I think I should mention this weird Easter egg here. I don't know if it's an intentional joke or if it's just an accident or something. This poster that Garfield and Odie hide behind, if you look really carefully, the comic strip on there is actually a fan-made comic where John drops the F-bomb. Yeah, I don't know if this is some sort of obscene joke, kind of like a Roger Rabbit hidden joke thing, or if this was just some accident where, a designer was just plucking a comic off the internet and didn't know it was a fan-made one, but it's still kind of funny. So Garfield and Odie try to get back into the newspaper by jumping into the comics page, but all their attempts fail, and all hope seems to be lost. And then Garfield delivers the moral of the movie.
This isn't the real world. Reality is where your heart is. And my heart is with the comics, with you guys.
What does that moral even mean, Garfield? I mean, reality is where your heart is? What is this, some sort of Matrix shit? I don't know. The morals in these Garfield movies don't really make much sense. And they don't get better after this one in the sequels. So anyway, Garfield and Odie are afraid that they're going to be canceled. But then he sees a woman with an accordion, and it gives him an idea. He tells Wally to, like, build a bigger device, you know, kind of based on an accordion that'll, like, allow them to pressurize in between the real world and the comic world so they can go through or something. I don't know. Wally and friends, like, start trying to build this device, and he calls it the bonitanator because the blade on it looks kind of like Bonita's nose or something. I don't know. It's some weird shit. And so Garfield and Odie decide to wait by sleeping in the house with Shecky that's abandoned. But then Hardy and Hale come in, and, you know, they want to make sure that Garfield and Odie are canceled so they get their comic, you know, in the newspaper. And so they tie them all up, and then accidentally the buildings catches fire. Yeah, really bad luck for Garfield and Odie today.
And it's not even supposed to be Monday anymore.
Thankfully for Garfield and Odie and Shecky, Eli has been watching them and he notices that they're in danger. And so Wally rushes to complete the bonitanator. And so he pushes it into the real world, and he, John, and Billy Bear go in to rescue Garfield, Odie, and Shecky. They untie Garfield and friends. They decide to escape really fast in this garbage cart thing. But Odie, being an idiot, forgets his prop bone. He goes back to get it, and then he tries to jump back into the cart, but then, like, overshoots the jump and lands on a chandelier. Whoops for him. Garfield tries to rescue Odie by, like, grabbing him, but then Odie, like, grabs too hard and, like, grabs Garfield out of the cart. Yeah. Really bad luck for you today, huh, Garfield? And so, like, the cart goes crazy and everything around the building, and it's basically, like, minecart madness type shit. And they burst out of the building, and for some reason, the building has a Michael Bay explosion. I don't know, like, was there a gas leak or something? It's weird shit. They go back into the bonitanator, and everyone's saved! Yay! Garfield's back in the cartoon world. And look, Shecky is with them too! Yeah, and I have to wonder, like, did any kids read Garfield thinking Shecky would be there? Because they'd be pretty disappointed. Like, Shecky only appears in this movie and has a brief cameo in Garfield's Funfest. He does not actually appear in the comics, so I wonder if any kids are disappointed. It seems like kind of a cruel joke for Jim Davis to introduce all these new characters, and then they don't actually appear in the comic strip after this. I mean, he changed the comic strip so that John and Liz are in love with each other, you know, because they were in love with each other in the live-action movies, so I don't know why Jim Davis doesn't add all these new characters. Anyway, the whole cast celebrates by having this dance party or something. I don't know. I guess because DreamWorks made dance parties at the end of cartoons popular or something. So that's the movie, and I guess I'll talk about the special features also. The special features are actually kind of interesting to check out. We have a making-of feature showing how the comic is made, from Jim Davis's rough sketches to his assistants finishing the comic, and that's pretty cool. Jim Davis Raw and Uncat is basically Jim Davis talking about his conception for the movie, the kind of world Garfield lives in, and so on and so forth. The animation process is basically how they go from script to finished film, and I gotta be honest, I think the storyboards they briefly show actually kind of look nicer than the CGI in the movie. I wonder what it would be like if they took the storyboards and turned that into a comic strip or something. There are a couple featurettes on the voice actors for the movie, and they discuss things like how they make voices for different characters, and I think when Greg Berger, like, does Odie voices, it's kind of cute. And then there's also a featurette on Jim Davis talking overseas with people from Korea. So that's Garfield Gets Real. What do I think overall? The movie's just a big fat meh to me. It's not a slap in the face like the Bill Murray movies, but that's not saying much. I do like things like how it tries to be more faithful to the comics, you know, having Garfield live in a comic strip world, and, you know, I do like seeing it animated instead of, you know, having a horrendous CGI Garfield in a real world like the Bill Murray movies. But on the other hand, you know, I don't want to crone on nostalgia, but Garfield and Friends and the TV specials, those have a charm to them that appeals to both kids and adults. The newer animated Garfield stuff to me, you know, both the DVD movies and the Garfield show, they just feel juvenile. I don't know what happened, you know, they just don't reach the same peaks as Garfield and Friends and stuff. When Garfield, you know, says in the Christmas special, you know, Christmas isn't about presents, it's about the loving, you know, that's a more genuine moment than Garfield and Garfield Gets Real saying, you know, reality is where your heart is. Like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. Oh, man. Well, I don't know. If you decide to watch this movie, you know, it's okay. Just, it's not Garfield at his A game. That's all I can really say. So, that's all I really have to say. You know, Garfield's had his ups and downs over the years, but
you know, he is an inspiration to me, and I hope you continue to be an inspiration to me in the future. Yeah. Your movies may not be all that good, Garfield, but you're still my favorite cat in the world. Happy birthday. Peter the Cat here. Bye, everybody. And I'm going to have some lasagna with my best friend. Oh man, I can't wait to have this lasagna with you, Garfield. Hey, I gotta ask you a question. How is it you're able to travel between the real world and the comic world so easily now? I mean, Garfield Gets Real makes it look really hard. What? Interdimensional powers you got from Zolgo? Pfft, you expect me to believe that? You're weird.